Guys, I'm Aussie Villain. I do daily Football Manager content, so if that's something you're interested in, if you'd like to see more of me for some reason, make sure you are subscribing and, of course, ring the bell so you know when I upload new videos. But today's video is going to be about player attributes, and more specifically, player attributes that I think are perhaps a little bit underrated when we're looking for players as players in the game, as managers in the game. So let's start with goalkeepers. Now, goalkeepers a little bit given that they have their own set of attributes. There's not that many that are maybe underrated, but I do think it depends on the sort of goalkeeper you want. Now, if you are sort of getting crosses, you're defending narrow to try and get crosses coming into the box, you can see here the game does highlight the ones that are valuable, but I definitely think the top three there, very, very important, more so than anything else. The attributes that you'll want from all your goalkeepers are basically handling, reflexes, and one-on-ones potentially as well. It depends if you're playing a deep line, maybe that's less important, but certainly if you're playing a high line, then that is something that's going to happen from time to time. So that's, I'd say, is what you want for your regular goalkeepers. Now, a sweeper keeper, you can see there, I basically want you to have every attribute. I think, personally, the most important ones are first touch, above and beyond. I mean, including, obviously, the handling, the reflexes, and the one-on-ones. But you're going to want first touch, you're going to want passing, and you're possibly going to want vision as well. But generally speaking, I think the attributes that do tend to be underrated are the mental ones. Anticipation is always important. It basically, I look at it as in it's the way that a player reads the game. So if a goalkeeper can anticipate where the shot's going, then that's when they make those brilliant world-class saves, basically. So that is definitely one that you want to look at. I think positioning is very important for a goalkeeper as well, and also agility. So they'll be able to sort of get to places that they maybe wouldn't be able to get to otherwise. Agility and reflexes kind of go hand in hand. You can see that the attribute is rated the same, kind of like jumping reach and aerial reach, I always think as well. So yeah, keep an eye out for those two. And acceleration is probably a good one for a sweeper keeper as well. If you have good acceleration and good anticipation and probably good decision making as well, then the goalkeeper is going to be able to get out and and do their sweeping job more effectively than if that was a lower attribute. So yeah, as far as goalkeepers go, that is, like I said, they have their own attributes, so it's a little bit more simplified, but definitely positioning, anticipation, and if you're looking for a sweeper keeper, acceleration as well. So let's move on over to centre-backs now. Now, there's the three attributes we all know for a centre-back: tackling, marking, and heading, and jumping reach and pace, I think, are the ones that we all look for, and maybe strength as well, and that's what we want our centre-backs to have. Now, the outside of that, I think the big two or three, anticipation. Again, anticipation can make up for a lack of pace just because they're heading for where the ball's going before the ball actually goes there. So if you have an older defender perhaps that is starting to slow down a bit, but their anticipation attribute is quite high, they're probably still going to be okay for you. It's only when the anticipation and the pace go, that's when you start to get a little bit of a statue in the back. So yeah, those two, I'd say, again, kind of go hand in hand. Pace and acceleration can kind of make up for bad anticipation as well, but vice versa. If you have high anticipation, it makes up for that lack of pace. The other one I always think is important for a centre-back is positioning. Similar for a goalkeeper, if they're positioned correctly, then they're less likely to make a mistake. Now, if you want a ball-playing defender, well, basically, it kind of depends on these attributes here. Now, I'm playing as an Icelandic team, so these players aren't great right now, granted. If you have a no-nonsense centre-back, basically it comes down to these mental attributes. If they have no composure, they don't concentrate, they have poor decision-making, you want to take all that out of their hands. You just want them, tackle ball, kick ball, and that's kind of all you want them to do. And that's going to be because these the composure, concentration, decision making are the poor stats. Then a central defender, just sort of regularly speaking, will have those attributes being not too bad. And then if you want to have a ball playing centre back, they really do need to have high composure, so that if they're trying to play out from the back and they're being put under pressure, they don't panic, basically. Decision making, concentration will be more important for the same reason. They'll need to know when to play out from the back, what to do with the ball in what situation, so you're going to want those attributes higher, as well as obviously first touch, passing, technique doesn't hurt, and vision, so they bit of creativity, so they know where to pass the ball, to get the move going. So yeah, ball playing centre backs are a lot harder to find, obviously, but look at these three attributes. I'd say composure, concentration, decision making. If they're low, you've got a no nonsense centre back. If they're high, you've got just a regular centre back. So that brings us to fullbacks. Now, fullbacks, it very much depends on what you want your fullback to do. I do like my fullbacks to get forward and try and get involved in the attack. So that being the case, obviously, physically, you want them to be okay. You want them to have good stamina to go up and down, and that's going to sort of go hand in hand with work rate as well. And I always think, too, that you're going to want to have good teamwork as well. That's something you want almost across the board from all of your players, but if you have good teamwork, it means that they'll sort of play with their teammates better than if they don't, obviously. You obviously will want the defensive stats and then crossing and dribbling as well. And again, anticipation. I always think it's less important for a fullback than it is for a centre-back, but it never hurts to have it. Then this is where it just depends what you want. If your fullback is an attacking option for you, then certain defensive attributes maybe aren't as important, but if you want someone to sit back and be more solid, you're going to want jumping, reach and strength as well, particularly if you're up against, say, a wide target man or an inside forward, perhaps it's good in the air. So depending again on what you want your fullback to do, the attributes are going to sort of change a little bit. But fullbacks are perhaps the most straightforward players to pick because it's sort of obvious what you want them to have. So this brings us now to central midfielders. Now, again, the attributes certainly technically are going to depend on what sort of midfielder you're looking for. Now, this guy, Capiello, I'm willing to overlook certain attributes because he is a very good technical player for the Icelandic League. Obviously, he's not a good tackler, but if you want a more defensively minded midfielder, you're going to want that. I think the underrated attributes, you're going to want work rate. But you want at least, if you have three midfielders, you want at least two of the three of them to have good work rate. Teamwork is always a good one as well, and vision and passing kind of go hand in hand. Now, if you do have a player with good passing and vision, the try-killer ball player trait is always a good one as well to sort of help them enhance that. But whenever I'm looking for a midfielder, I tend to prefer sort of a passing midfielder to anything else. And obviously, passing is one of the things that I want to look for. But again, composure, decision making are important, and the vision and everything else. I kind of am okay, even if technically, physically, they're quite poor, if they're slow. If they're a really good passer of the ball, I'm okay with having at least one of them just to sit in there, sort of like a Pirlo kind of character. But everything else is going to kind of depend on what sort of role you want, and again, it'll highlight. The game will highlight for you the sort of the key attributes that you should have for a certain position. But depending on what you want the midfielder to do, again, it's kind of going to be dependent on that. Which brings us to wingers. Now, wingers, again, I think it's kind of obvious. You want pace, you want balance, acceleration and dribbling. Now, balance and agility, they sort of help the dribbling attribute, acceleration to a point as well. So you can see here with Kike Viva, he is our Spanish man, and he is very good dribbler, good pace and acceleration and balance, and good off the ball movement as well, which is not so important for a winger. Now, one thing I would say with a winger as well, and this is where perhaps people sort of maybe don't pick the right wingers when they're looking for players. You are going to want a winger to either have good flair or good teamwork. Flair basically is their ability to do the unpredictable, and teamwork is their ability to work with the teammates. You want them to have one or the other. You either want them to do the unpredictable or you want them to work with their teammates. So I'd say you want one or the other of those. If you get both, absolutely brilliant. That's superb. But you definitely do want one of the two there. And you obviously want dribbling and crossing. Now, if you have a wide player, let's say maybe more so than a winger, which is probably the modern thing to say anyway, what you want to look for here, if you have someone whose finishing attribute is perhaps better than their crossing attribute, like, for example, Mr. Rocky here, you'll probably want to play them. His preferred foot is a right foot. Play him on the left-hand side as an inside forward or an inverted winger, and let him use that finishing attribute. He can't cross to save himself, but if he can finish, and he has scored, if you've watched the series, a lot of goals for us playing from the left as an inside forward. So one other thing to look for the wide players is don't be completely turned off if they don't have the crossing ability. If they're a decent finisher, and as I said, for this level he is, then that's definitely worthwhile doing as well. One thing to always keep an eye on with your wide players is passing. Now, he can't pass a ball really, so you've got to bear that in mind. You wouldn't want to be playing him as a sort of a wide player that's not just trying to get forward and either cross or score. if you want your wide player, say, to be kind of more of a, well, either a wide playmaker or whatever it may be, a defensive winger, you're going to want to keep a bit of a more, maybe pick them or the attributes more so like it's a central midfielder in that sense, that can maybe dribble and cross a bit. So yeah, wingers are, again, it's a little bit more straightforward, but again, keep an eye on, you want flair or teamwork, preferably both. And if they can't cross but they can finish, you got yourself an inside forward or inverted winger. Which brings us finally to strikers. Now, strikers, everybody has their attributes to look for, isn't it? Finishing, heading, and that's pretty much it. There's some good physicals. Now, I think the three things that I look for almost, to be honest, these days above finishing and heading is off-the-ball movement, composure, and anticipation. I think, again, anticipation, being able to sort of read the game where the play is going to unfold. Anticipation and composure, if they can get them, and off the ball movement as well, they can get themselves in a position before the centre back gets there and then be composed in front of goal. The finishing attribute almost doesn't matter, to be honest. I mean, it does, but you know what I mean? It's almost just a sideshow. So those are the three things I'd say for a centre-back that are absolutely important. Now, I would flag up too, again, teamwork. If you have, now Stephenson here for us is very much a poacher, advanced forward kind of player. If you've got a striker that you want to be like a deep-lying forward or a target man or someone that's on support and you want them to bring their teammates into play, they've got to, they can't be selfish. They've got to have a good teamwork attribute, and they've probably got to have good vision, passing, first touch, things like that as well. So again, depending on what you want your striker to do, if they're sort of more of a hold up, bring everybody else into play, then teamwork is an absolute must. But if you are just looking for a poacher, off the ball movement, composure, anticipation, bit of finishing, throw it in there, and you're all good to go. But there we go. If you found that useful, which hopefully you have, make sure you hit thumbs up. Subscribe if you are new to the channel. And if you want to see more of me, there's plenty other tutorials on the channel. Or come and join me here at Grindavik. We're trying to win the Champions League with them. And I don't think an Icelandic team's ever won the Champions League. So it'll be a first if we do it. Take care.